And now let's welcome our next fighter out of the red corner, Blaine, Big Block Bones.
This fight is brought to you by Agoji Resistance Apparel. Agoji, join the resistance. Let's take a look now at the Agoji Resistance Apparel tail of the tape. Blaine, Big Block Bounds, makes his way to the ring, proudly sporting his Team Cologne tank top.
Yeah, that's a tongue twister. I don't know if I'm gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get that off with.
Glad
the
I'm not
nickname.
inside the cage.
Yeah,
for this
but
one.
yeah, exactly. But Blaine Bounds coming to us out of Team Cologne. He's debuting tonight. But as I mentioned earlier, when you're coming out of an established gym like Team Cologne, when you're coming into the cage, you know, preparing with several teammates for the same night, the same end goal, that creates a certain type of atmosphere inside the gym. And even if you're debuting, you're bringing some of that energy, some of that excitement, and plenty of that experience with you. As tonight we get to see Blaine Bounds step inside the EFN cage for the first time, taking on Zack Fraser.
So to this point in the card, we've seen 125, 135, now we're at the 155-pound weight class, and this is where you start to see the fighting styles shift a little bit. Not as much of the spryness or the quickness, right?
Well, yeah, you definitely see the shift. You kind of get a little bit of the best of both worlds. You get some of these 55ers. Let's just be honest, most of them walk around a lot heavier than 155 pounds. So they're big guys, they bring a lot of power. They're still small enough to where they can be quick, maybe not as quick as the flyweights, but you're gonna get a high pace with, you know, the possibility of a knockout the whole time. Usually the knockouts are reserved for the bigger guys, but even with what we've seen thus far here at EFN 22, we've seen some flyweights pick up knockouts. So this sport constantly evolving, and we're seeing it even in the weight classes. But to your point, Raj, yeah, I think you're gonna see a little bit of a shift now that we move on to move on to lightweight.
Blaine Bounds enters the cage here. Again, representing Team Cologne.
And now let's welcome to the cage, fight in the blue corner, Zack Fraser.
And here's another product of the Ricardo Lamas fight team in Zack Fraser.
Yeah, one of 4 fighters from Lamas' team fighting tonight. Of course, we already saw Jalen Gibson. We got Novarini, and later on in the card, Fraser's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt. As we take a look at the tail of the tape, Blaine Bounds, Zack Fraser, a little bit of a height advantage for Fraser, but at the end of the day, this is a pretty even matchup. Both debuting fighters at 155 pounds. It's Team Cologne versus Ricardo Lamas fight team here inside the cage at EFN 22.
Tail of the tape brought to you by Agoji. Blaine Bounds, the hometown native here from Merrillville, Indiana. And what's interesting is I think he's relatively unknown, even though this is his hometown. You didn't hear a huge pop for him as he came out.
No, and looking rather stoic even right now. But like I mentioned earlier, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt, heavy hands. I believe he goes by the nickname of the War Wolf. Per my internet scouring, I came across that one. But yeah, like I said, he's coming to us out of Ricardo Lamas fight team. He gets to train with some of the highest level fighters in the area, and an absolute legend in Ricardo Lamas. Somebody that's made waves, you know, in a weight class very similar to the one that Fraser's coming out of. Lamas, of course, one of the best 145-pounders the UFC has ever seen. So definitely imparting plenty of that knowledge, plenty of that experience in his young fighters.
Let's send it up to Mike Vale for the introductions.
Let's get the action started. Our next bout is the 155-pound weight division, scheduled for 3 3-minute rounds. Introducing first, fighting out of the El Popo Tortillas red corner. He stands 5 feet 7 inches tall, official weight 153.6 pounds. Representing Team Cologne from Merrillville, Indiana, let's welcome Blaine Big Block Bounds. And now let's welcome his opponent, fighting out of the Agoji Resistance Apparel blue corner. He stands 5 feet 10 inches tall, official weight 154 pounds. Representing Ricardo Lamas fight team from Oswego, Illinois, let's welcome Zack Fraser. The referee in charge, Rob.
This fight is brought